I had to rely on all those other things to get me ahead to where I was, and really happy I took it as far as I could. Top 3 in the country for many years. I actually went into nationals, ranked #1 at one point, and got to go Olympic trials, Pan Am trials, Commonwealth Game trials. So, but I guess how that relates to business, again, it's like how you do one thing is how you do everything, right? So it really showed me that, just showing up and being consistent is so important. And, make sure you always close those open loops every single day. Like, some of these things are really easy to do, just a lot of people don't do them, right? So, being successful in anything is not rocket science. It's just a matter of showing up, putting in the effort, getting yourself in the right environment, surrounding yourself by the right people, and actually putting in the work.
Problems are what? Problems are profits!
Welcome to the Problems or Profits podcast, and here we're really exploring the idea of problems or profits, which for me really means the ability to turn a situation into a profit, or any sort of challenge that you're facing, able to see the flip side of that and really ultimately flip that challenge into something with a positive outcome. So today we have special guest Kory MacKinnon on. Really excited to have you on, Kory. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, everybody.
Awesome. Yeah, it's great having you on the podcast, Kory. And so as part of our warm-up here, the first question is, what's the most expensive thing you've ever broken?
Intentionally or not intentionally, or maybe someone else broke?
Yeah, either or.
Gosh, trying to think. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely in the thousands of dollars. It's not in the hundreds of dollars. Off the top of my head, I can't think of exactly one thing. Maybe just as you're doing a renovation or a project, like, what you thought was going to cost X turns into something massively bigger. So, but I'm a pretty careful guy. Like, I take a good care of my electronics and my stuff. It's actually one of my pet peeves when someone borrows one of my things, or they just like smash it or drop it or whatever. So I actually think that how people take care of their cell phone actually reflects a lot about how they take care of other things in their life. So
absolutely, it's that how you do one thing is how you do everything kind of mentality. Next question here is the $1 million question. So if you had $1 million and only 24 hours to do something with that $1 million, spend it or otherwise, what would you do?
$1 million in 24 hours. Well, I love real estate, so I'd probably go look for real estate deals I could buy. But if that wasn't an option, I'd probably go look into a business that I could buy into. And worst case, if none of those were able to turn around quickly enough, I'd probably just do a lend and make some good money on a lend.
Very practical. Awesome. Thanks, Kory. And then last question here is, why are you you?
Why am I Kory MacKinnon? Well, I guess I'm a December baby, so I'm a Capricorn. I guess I'm just a mix of my upbringing, my environment, and what I've experienced all throughout life, right? So always being the youngest kid in the class, that always made me want to reach for another level. I think even when I was young, at first I remember being young and just thinking it wasn't fair. Like, why is so-and-so like taller than me? Why is so-and-so stronger than me, or whatever, right? But it's pretty easy to find a way. You lift some weights, you try harder, you work harder. But I think I don't like to settle, right? I don't think you guys like to settle either, right? I'm always reaching for something more, always trying to do better, and I'll be doing that until my last days, for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, I really appreciate that, Kory. So the first question, I just kind of wanted to start off a little bit with your background. So today, real estate investor, kind of get to make your own calendar, all that great stuff. But at least based upon my understanding of your background, it wasn't necessarily a clear A to B path. There was actually like a whole journey there along the way with like student works painting and all that. Do you mind just kind of breaking down for us, what was that path to where you are today, and what did that look like?
Sure. I might even take you guys back a little bit further, like maybe even into high school. So, in high school, I was actually more of a technician. Like, I was taking all the shop courses and all those different things. Like, my dad was a pretty hands-on guy, so I think it's like, okay, I got to be like dad. And I was good at them. I'm a very precise person, but I also realized, like, the further you look into that, you can't do exceptionally well when you're just working for a paycheck. Right. So I, very good at school. I took school as a sport, really. always trying to challenge and get some of the better marks in classes and whatnot, whether it be math or science or what have you. And I wasn't really sure what I want to do, right? So I actually took a victory lap. That's when we had grade 13 back then. I don't know if you guys had grade 13 too, but I actually went back for like an extra semester of grade, call it victory lap, grade 14. And at that point, it was really clear. I'm like, I'm not going to university. I'm just going to actually go out in the workforce and just go figure this out myself, right? So I went and worked like 3 part-time jobs, actually 1 full-time, 2 part-time. Because if I wasn't working like 60 hours a week, I just didn't feel like I was busy enough. Didn't really want to be around the house. There's lots of kids at home, and we came from humble beginnings, so I actually felt like I could do better if I just stayed out of the house. And that's when I actually started to bump into more entrepreneurs and people that were actually making their own path, right? Managers and people in senior management. And I was like, I actually want to do a little bit more of that, right? So there's a pretty cool program that came up at my local college. It was half business, half sports and rec admin, which is, I was a national level athlete at the time. So my guidance counselor said, hey, that would actually be right up your alley. Why don't you go and apply for that? And I did. And it was really clear I didn't want to be managing a gym anytime soon. I know Rebecca comes from that world, and it's fun. It's great. You get to, it's great when everybody has that same culture and that same mindset. But also, I want to be a self-made person as well, or, to do very, very well and break the mold of being, first generation millionaire. So I knew I had to start getting into business or real estate or something that I could leverage and scale, right? So I found a great opportunity. There's really no such thing as, I believe in coincidences. Like, these things find you. And second year college, I had an opportunity to go run a business, right? So, because I'd always wanted to be a manager. I always felt like, those management opportunities just weren't available to someone like who's young, right? Working retail or whatever jobs you're working in high school and college. So when that opportunity came up, I just said, you know what, I'm going to go grab it. And because a lot of my previous managers, they said, we can't hire you in management because you're not a lifer. You're not here for life. And I was like, okay, I get it, but I do know I could do just as good of a job as that person over there. So at a young age, I got to be running a business, and I went up through the ranks in that company, vice president of Eastern Canada for 12 or 13 years. And then all throughout the way, I found opportunities to buy real estate. So that was how I was able to I was getting a high income job, and I was able to put those profits to work in real estate. So, and I just feel like I have a really good personality for real estate, for self-managing my properties. You guys are into the predictive index, so I profile as a captain. So for me, all that stuff comes naturally, and we actually still insource what we do right now. And I don't know, it's been a great ride. Pretty boring for quite some time, like very low appreciation. But now the market's really been it's really paid off to be in the game for sure. So that's
Absolutely.
a little bit about my backstory there.
That's great. Well, I definitely appreciate you sharing that, Kory. And one thing that I actually would love to dive a little bit deeper into that you mentioned was that you were a national level athlete and competed at a very high level in your sport. And I would love to know what your thoughts are on how that actually shaped the way that you approach business.
Sure. And, it's actually interesting. Before I came on the show today, I was like, what were all the problems I've had in my life, and what were all the ways I've had profit, right? But, and it's really interesting that even Jeff Weibo had that post the other day. Like, when something comes up, you just figure out a way to solve it. And, if you go into a weightlifting contest, so I guess I started when I was in like literally grade 8. We were lifting weights and didn't know what we're doing, weren't doing it properly, just in my friend's basement. And then there was actually an opportunity. I was cornet tasseling in the summertime, and one of the people on the bus was talking some pretty big numbers of what he was able to do, right? And that the biggest thing was that the coach, there was a coach there, had been to 2 Olympic Games, and I was just like, wow, if there's not, and how much does it cost? He's like, really, you just got to pay for like a monthly due, and like pay to go to contests and pay for your outfits and all that kind of stuff. So I was like, I'm in, man. So I went there. It's actually funny. The first day I actually went in, it was like in the back door of this high school gym, and I looked in, I couldn't see my friend, so I actually left. I was like, I'm not going to go into a totally new environment and go talk to this 2-time Olympian coach. So told him that. He said, hey, just come back again on Thursday, and I'm sure you'll see the coach. So I went in, saw the coach, and just started working at it, right? I wasn't naturally gifted. I've actually had my DNA tested, and I'm kind of like 50-50. I can go endurance or I can go power, but I think it was just like that repetitive, that consistency, showing up every single day. Sometimes we used to train twice a day, and maybe I was a early developer or whatever, but by the time I was, when did I lift 300 pounds? By the time I was 17, 16 3/4, I lifted 300 pounds, right? So I was on the top 10 list of Canadians that have ever lifted 300 pounds at that age, which was pretty cool. But it's just one of those things, like our training program wasn't really complicated, because people are always asking us, like, how do you do it? What are you doing? It's just like, I'm doing the same stuff all you guys are doing. I'm just like sleeping better, eating better, doing my prehab, doing my flexibility work, working on my technique. I was never a really big guy. I'm actually still the same weight as I was in high school. So, I had to rely on all those other things to get me ahead to where I was, and really happy I took it as far as I could. Top 3 in the country for many years. I actually went into nationals ranked number 1 at one point, and got to go Olympic trials, Pan Am trials, Commonwealth Game trials. So, but I guess how that relates to business, again, it's like how you do one thing is how you do everything, right? So it really showed me that, just showing up and being consistent is so important. And, make sure you always close those open loops every single day. Like, some of these things are really easy to do, just a lot of people don't do them, right? So, being successful in anything is not rocket science. It's just a matter of showing up, putting in the effort, getting yourself in the right environment, surrounding yourself by the right people, and actually putting in the work.
Yeah, absolutely. On the real estate front, Kory, I'd love to explore just a little bit further. You talked about how for, years there wasn't a ton of appreciation there. And right now in our current environment in, 2020, 2021, almost anyone that got into Canadian real estate now is able to show a lot of success simply because the markets pushed it upon them. Do you mind talking about like the years where you didn't get 20% appreciation year over year, just consistently, like, were there times that you questioned yourself? Because like, I'm going to guess, you're primarily chasing cash flow at that stage, right? Like, it's about like actually earning a return from it, and cash flow can be great, but at the same time, like, it's rare that someone builds a massive empire just off of like $100 a door. So was there any moments that you were questioning yourself, or family members question yourself, or did you always know that this was the right path?
I think I always knew it was the right path. I didn't think I'd maybe quite get as big as I am right now, or have the equity I have at this moment. But, it's one of those things where we weren't getting a lot of appreciation, so we weren't really banking on it, right? We weren't really expecting that. And our numbers were still returning us 20 to 30% a year, cash on cash, even without appreciation. So I think when people realize that, and you can actually just take appreciation and throw it out the window and go, hey, that's a bonus. I mean, who knows? I don't know about you guys. I'm looking around my room here. I don't have a crystal ball. So I think I actually want to buy a fake one, just so when people ask those crystal ball questions about the future. But I think if you can actually thrive and survive without appreciation, I mean, it's great. It's a bonus if you can have that. But I mean, there's been challenging times for sure. You get challenging tenants, you get challenging situations. But again, I think when you run into problems or roadblocks, right, it's really about how you react to that problem. So many people are, I don't like to use the term that much, but they might be a bit of a snowflake, right? It's like, or they might be fragile. So like something hits them and they literally crumble and they get crushed, right? But it's, going through what we've experienced here in 2020 and even going into 2021, there's so much uncertainty. But if you can just stay to your path and stay motivated and just keep showing up every single day, waking up and being motivated. And, when you have a problem and you don't let that problem get you down for very long, like literally it's like it's a matter of minutes, or maybe an hour or two if it's something really major, but not days, man, not weeks. Like, I've never let a problem let me, help me down that long, because you're just losing time at that point, right?
So do you have a process you use in order to, systematically approach any challenges that come along the way in your business?
Great question. So how do I approach problems? I mean, obviously want to get a full understanding of what the problem might be, because lots of times we can be quick to react when we actually don't have all the information. So make sure, first of all, you get all the information from all parties that might be involved. And then, because that actually lets you be able to see it as it is and not worse or not better. I always take just a pretty pragmatic approach. It's like, okay, I don't know, got a fork right here. Here's the problem. Let's just look at the problem and how are we going to solve it, right? So the sooner you can get to it about solving the problem, the better. And the more effort you can actually hit it with, the quicker you're going to get through it. So, there's two ways you can get through it. Well, I guess there's multiple ways you can get through a problem, but if you just like ease into it, I mean, it's going to take you a long time to get through it. But if you go at that thing with, a lot of push and a lot of energy, you're going to get through it a lot quicker. So I think it's just, being able to stand on the shoulders of giants and seeing how other people have gotten through problems before in the past. Never want to take a reckless or too aggressive approach when it comes to solving problems. But I think the biggest thing is just, make sure that when you ask yourself, is this really going to matter? Is this going to matter 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 12 months from now? 95 to high 90s, usually the answer is no, it's not going to matter. Like, with somebody's life in danger, did somebody get seriously injured or is in critical care because of this situation? Usually it's not. So time usually does solve all issues, and let's just get started solving the problem.
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate that, Kory. So I guess, like, what are some of the recent problems you've maybe encountered that you've had to overcome those obstacles? And do you mind maybe sharing some story time just on how that played out?
Sure. So recent problems. I mean, I really do look at all problems as a blessing, right? So you were either going to experience it in the future at some point anyway. So it's actually a good thing when it comes into your ecosystem sooner. I think we're all experiencing some of the similar things, like delays, whether it's delays on product, materials, closing times. I mean, we even had challenges where, we do some of the similar things that you guys do, and we do coaching and mentorship, and just so many inquiries for that sort of stuff these days. Like, people are consuming on their phones at such a rapid rate, and it's really put us into the future, right? So how do you grow and how do you scale really quickly? Well, you go about figuring it out. But anything major, I think it was just trying to get, at the beginning of COVID, if we're allowed to say the C word here, but everybody gets caught up in what's going on. I was like going grocery shopping and sterilizing everything when I came home, but it's like I soon realized that's really not the most important thing in the world. The most important thing is actually continue to strive and move forward, and not let your business shrink. You should still be able to grow through these times. Actually, some of the best businesses, actually all the best businesses, have actually grown through these challenging times. You look at great brands like Disney, Microsoft. I mean, they were all forged through challenging times.
Absolutely. And is there anything in particular, Kory, right now that you're really striving towards in your business? Like, what's on the horizon for you?
Yeah, I think just being able to impact more people. So, and having having more family time. So my kids are at the age where they actually like to hang out with daddy, right? So even my 18-month-old daughter is, finally really warming up to me, right? Because she realizes that she doesn't have an umbilical cord to mommy anymore. But I think it's balancing that business life and the family life, and just being able to do cool stuff, right? I think that's one of the things that disappoints me a little bit. That if I have to, if I can't fly internationally as easy as I used to, we're just finding other things we can do within the province or within Canada, right? So that's the biggest thing that I'm striving for, is just more family time and still having increased profits as well, right? How can you actually increase your profits with less time, creating better systems, putting better people on the team so that you can do more in less time.
Awesome. And what's the next phase of your business or journey look like, Kory?
Next phase, I think, is just really ramping up, some of my channels that I want to be getting out there on, right? Just to be impacting people more, being more consistent with them. As we all know, video is king, right? We're on video right now. So just being able to be better on video and get more video content out there. But, the next phase is we're always looking to double. We're always looking to double or triple what we're doing. So, and I guess with real estate, at some point, we're going to get to the point where maybe we don't need to keep accumulating real estate, right? Maybe we sell off some of our holdings and we can just go lend it out and be the bank on that sort of stuff. And if they don't make the payments, hey, we have security and collateral on the property. So
awesome. And so I'd love to explore with you, Kory. There's a quote from Reid Hoffman, one of the founders of LinkedIn, and he's part of the PayPal mafia. When talking about running a business, one of the quotes he regularly uses is about understanding which fires to let burn and which fires you need to go put out, right? So like some fires actually aren't big problems at all. In fact, they're maybe not even a problem, but sometimes we pay so much attention or give so much energy or resources to them that we end up actually feeding that fire a little bit more, where we should have just let it burn out. What are your thoughts on that? And with maybe some of the entrepreneurs you work with, do you constantly find them having struggles where they're making, mountains out of molehills?
Well, I think that really comes down to leadership, right? So as a strong leader, you should be able to identify which are the problems that are worth, putting out, and which are the ones that aren't really doing all that much damage. At the end of the day, nobody likes to have holes in the boat or fires anywhere. So I think that's it really is a leadership piece, and that is a maturity thing as well. So as you work with people, you want to actually be taking, your knowledge from your brain, your philosophy, and transplanting it into their brain, right? So, it's like what would Kory do, or what would Matt do, or what would Rebecca do, right? So once people can learn how to think a little bit more like us, and that philosophy has been transferred, or if you have systems and tools that they can go to refer to, then they can be like, I wonder if there is anything like this that I can refer to, and they go and look and find it. I mean, you can find almost anything on Google or YouTube, but it's the people that you work the closest with that typically resonate with the most, and you trust their opinion. So, but yeah, there's a lot of noise out there. Whether you have a small business or a big business, you got to really figure out what's worth focusing on and what's just noise, and it's really not that important. So I was raised, 25 years ago, read, Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, right? Just making sure you're spending the right time in the right quadrant. It's being in the proactive quadrant, not getting too caught up in the ones that don't matter.
Absolutely. Now, you highlighted that you were trying to focus a little bit more on the video content. So what kind of platforms are you really focusing on right now?
Yeah, I mean, I've been putting time, effort, and energy into Instagram first, and I guess it's interesting. It's something that is new to me, the short form content. Then we're going to start transitioning into YouTube and that sort of thing. I don't know about you guys, but like Facebook is, I saw Peter posting the other day, are we at peak Facebook or what have you, right? So yeah, just trying other platforms, making sure that people can get the message.
Absolutely. Now, you've also transitioned into quite largely a coaching role now in real estate. So how have you found that transition? Did that come pretty natural to you to be a coach?
I believe so. I mean, as soon as I retired, I literally had people, reaching out of the woodwork saying, hey, could you coach me in real estate? Could you hold me accountable? Could you help me with my business? So I think, at the end of the day, real estate is like a business. It's business coaching. So for me, it's something that I haven't really been all that challenged with. I'm used to being on phone or on Zoom for long days and all those different things. So, just like you guys, we all have voice boxes of steel and we can handle it. So it's actually something I really enjoy. Like I really thrive in that role. And it's something even at a young age, when I go to connect the dots, even way back at a young age, right? We're all given the calls to be a leader. Just a lot of people don't answer those calls to be a leader. So I know from a young age, I started doing different things that would challenge me, things that all my friends weren't doing, whether it was a different sport or, wanting to pursue something different in school that, was more of a leadership path. And, I know that I've been forging myself this way for a long time.
Awesome. So kind of looking at where you're at now or where society's at now, do you see a problem or an opportunity that a lot of people currently are overlooking in this current economy?
Well, I always like to say that it does come back to fundamentals, right? I mean, there's a lot of, people just wanting to migrate towards value or towards assets, but they really don't realize like what is that and what is an asset or what is value that can actually weather the storms, right? So I think that's the biggest opportunity. Sometimes we have to actually look back in history and say, okay, well, when there wasn't massive appreciation or so many people on their devices or whatever, what mattered back then? What mattered 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 50 years ago? Like what is valuable to people? And true value is very hard to destroy. So as far as just one opportunity, I think there's lots of opportunities out there. I don't think there's just one, but maybe it's just like, don't be getting so stuck on what's going on out there. Don't be comparing yourself to other people, right? Like compare yourself to how you're doing, like set your own goals, set your own path, and make sure that you're always really dialed into how you're doing, right? Measuring and tracking how you're doing, not just, opening up somebody else's feed or someone else's channel and go, oh, I'm not there yet. I guess I'm not being successful, right? Because that just gets you into like this crazy loop, and it's challenging to get out of. So look to other people for inspiration and motivation, but definitely not comparison. I think that's the biggest thing. I watched the movie Social Dilemma, and it's interesting how all those key people, it's like they ask their, are your kids on social media? And they're like, no, not till they're at a certain age or whatever, right? It actually takes some definite discipline on how to manage one of these things. So.
Absolutely. That was actually a very well done Netflix episode. And one of the things that I thought was really interesting in that was the question that the professor, I believe it was, asked, do you look at your phone before or while you're peeing in the morning? And I think that's so relatable to that attention span right now with everyone. And you mentioned that short form content that you're trying to really pump out. So is that just because you're seeing those trends in today's society of that short form content being more prominent, or what has driven you towards that short term content in the interim?
Well, I think it's just people's attention span, right? I mean, people want like true knowledge and true wisdom, and like really compressed down into something that's really short. And if you can do that in 30 seconds or a minute or 2 minutes, that's real wisdom, right? That's brilliant. So I think it's an interesting challenge when you can actually deliver on that time frame, right? And I think it's just the whole society of people that have been growing up, they never not known the internet, and they just want those quick sound bites. And I think it's a cool opportunity too, right? Because you're actually getting chances to become a part of their network and all their memories in their head too. So if it's something that really resonated with them, and they can remember it, and they can repeat, maybe it was like 3 steps or 2 things to remember or whatever, over time, it's just they can actually connect all the dots. It just might take a lot of 30-second intervals to do that, right? But I think it just lends well to people's attention spans and how they can be just looking for the next shiny thing.
Awesome. Yeah, I really appreciate that, Kory, and appreciate you coming on today's episode of Problems or Profits. If people want to follow along with you on your journey, can they, and how should they?
Yeah, I'm pretty easy to find. I mean, people can just look me up by name. I've got my own website, KoryMcKinnon.com. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook. So all those different platforms for sure.
Awesome.
And
thanks, Kory.
on Matt's channel, that we've done some great videos together. So.
Absolutely. Well, Kory, thank you so much for coming on today's episode of Problems or Profits, and really, really excited to have everyone listen back to this episode, and definitely lots of great information to come from it, and really cool to hear your story from going from an underdog to really exploding into a very successful entrepreneur and business person.
Definitely, and just hopefully people don't let problems get them down, because that's like the antidote or the anti-antidote to being successful in life for sure. So just get through them and realize that it's not going to matter. Like 6 months in the future, it's not going to matter. So just keep going.
Awesome. Thanks, Kory.
Cheers, everybody.
Problems are what? Problems are profits!